Hey everybody, Anthony here, and in a second I'm going to be throwing to a conversation that Aaron and I recorded yesterday, being Tuesday. Today's Wednesday. It's that time of year. Um, Obviously, anytime that you record something and then you release later, you run the risk of something happening, and that episode is obviously lacking somewhere. And that's what happened here on this occasion, where Aaron and I recorded on Tuesday. And then Wednesday morning, we get word that Jerry West, the logo, Mr. Clutch, has passed away. I obviously it would. This is a Lakers podcast. That guy is a Lakers icon, and the episode would not have been complete without some kind of tribute to Jerry West. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to talk a little. I'm going to give a story on Jerry West that I think you guys will enjoy. I shared it on Twitter, but I'll go into a little bit more detail here, and then I'll talk about his relationship with the Lakers and why the the response felt a little cold from the Lakers today, uh, given how important West was to the organization. So let's start though with Jerry West. Obviously, he's the logo. Won a championship with the Lakers in the '70s. Was a key figure to multiple championship runs that ended in losses, obviously, to the Boston Celtics. But you could really make an argument, and even Michael Jordan, of all people, would, I think, support this argument that Jerry West is one of, if not the most competitive person in the history of the. He absolutely lived and died with losses and wins as a player. He went about it the same way as a head coach, and was so competitive in that position that he actually had to walk away from coaching because it was just too much for him. And then, when he walked away from coaching, he wanted to remain around the sport in some way, and obviously stepped into the front office under Bill Sharman after Sharman had kind of laid the foundation for Showtime. And if you basically just take West's first run here with the Lakers, where he was a pivotal part to the Showtime era, that run in and of itself, that puts him in like the 90th percentile of executives in the history of the sport. And then after that, right, as if that wasn't enough, he goes from that to the three-peat. And in the same offseason, he signs Shaquille O'Neal in free agency, and he trades for Kobe on draft night. And obviously the rest of that run is history. And if you just took those two runs with the Lakers, that probably makes him 95th, maybe 98th percentile of executive in the history of the NBA. Then he goes from there, and he rides out kind of the rest of that three-peat era, and he prepares to hand over the reins to Mitch Kupchak, and prepares Mitch for that final run where it was you won a couple more championships there. But again, Jerry West protege helps get those two championships there. And basically everything that Mitch Kupchak learned as an executive, he learned while working under Jerry West. So you have all of that. That needs to be mentioned and taken into account. And after that, he leaves the Lakers. And look, like this is where things get complicated, right? Obviously, you have the relationship that was ruined between him and Jeannie Buss because of some of his concerns over her relationship with Phil Jackson. That grudge, it doesn't appear, was ever mended. And that's like, that was, I'm sorry, like that was kind of one of the first places that my brain first went to today, where when somebody passes away and you don't have an opportunity to make amends, there's a ton of regret. You're going to live with a ton of regret forever. And like the human being side of this, the very human story here is, I think, a sad one, where Jerry West never felt welcome again in the organization that he helped build. You can make a real argument here that Jerry West was the most important presence in Lakers history. It's like him, Dr. Buss, Kobe, and Magic. That's it. And I think there might even be a gap between Jerry West and Kobe and Magic, because of the things, like, obviously West was a great player, and then he was also a great executive. So, that's the part of this that, like, that's the kind of sad, like, that's the part that is, like, kept me down kind of all day, on top of obviously losing a legend. But anyway, so he leaves the Lakers, and was never to return, despite, at various times showing interest in it. And I just don't think it was ever in the cards. He goes to Memphis and helps lay the foundation for the future success that they have there. He has a couple, they moved from Vancouver to Memphis. He kind of helped guide them through that. They won 50 games one time, and then 49 games another. Some of the best seasons in Memphis Grizzlies history. He leaves there and he goes to Golden State. And in Golden State, he is famous for basically vouching for Klay Thompson and saying that you do not want to trade Klay Thompson for Kevin Love. Klay Thompson stays. He and Steph Curry form the Splash Brothers, and obviously the rest is history there. Then he goes from Golden State and he goes to the Clippers, where he has been up until his literal dying day, and has been a key part, as Steve Ballmer explained, in frankly the most stable run in that franchise's history. So everywhere that this guy went, things got better in terms of basketball, and if he left, things tended to get a little bit worse too. And again, he's a complicated guy. He was very tormented by himself. He just he dealt with crippling anxiety and depression, and a lot of times that could wear on people. He was also insanely competitive and could be an asshole by way of that competitive fire. That's how that tends to go with really, really competitive and great minds and stuff like that. So, again, he's an absolute devastating loss for the NBA and for the culture surrounding the NBA. And I just felt, it took a couple hours for the Lakers to do anything. And the first response there was a black and white graphic with the day he was born and then the day that he died, or the year that he died. And then you had to wait a little bit longer, and you got a very tepid statement from the Lakers. Then you had to wait a little bit longer. It was 20 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago that Jeanie Buss posted on her personal Instagram about Jerry West. The statement that the Lakers released didn't have any quotes from anybody in the organization. And I just thought, like, it was a very petty move and a very small move. And it's the kind of thing that, like, it's a completely unforced error. There's no need. Jeanie Buss was going to release a statement. Okay, fine. Lump it in with the statement that the Lakers give there and give it a little earlier. You're going to do a video compilation. Most of these, Jerry West was 89 years old. Like, it's, most of these organizations, ESPN basically does this for Sports Center, where when somebody reaches a certain age, they start, asking people for their favorite tributes and stories, and they compile that, and they have that ready to go for the event that this person passes away. This is all standard stuff in PR, and the Lakers, didn't carry that out. And I was really kind of bummed by it, and I thought it really kind of represented that regret that everybody is going to live with from here on out, that the relationship between Jerry West and the Lakers got so complicated. Anyway, I'm going to end this on a brighter note, and I'm going to tell a story. The story I gave on Twitter earlier today about the time that I met Jerry West at Summer League. And it was, I forget which year it was. It was one of the first years that I went. I wasn't credentialed yet. And I walked in, and basically, like, in order to get even a decent seat there for the time that the Lakers finally go, you have to get there hours early, and you have to sit through all kinds of Summer League basketball. And it's a lot, man. Like, Summer League basketball is not the best brand of basketball. And so I'm sitting there. This is the first year, or one of the first years. And I'm sitting there with my janky old laptop that literally, this laptop literally had a battery taped to it. Like, I was a broke ass aspiring journalist in a polo shirt, in a golf polo shirt, because that's what I thought journalists wore. I'm there, sitting there, and I had a really good seat because I got there really, really early. And he sits down, and he's basically like, I could reach out and I could have patted him on the shoulder. He was right there. And so he's sitting there, and he's watching. As he was sitting down, he's kind of walking over here from my right, and he as he's sitting down, he was, it's not like he like sat in front of me because it was me. He just found a chair that had a good view, and he sat down there, and we kind of made eye contact or whatever. And I was like, just, and I'm sitting there, like, he was sitting in front of me for about, I would say, like 20-30 minutes or so. And the whole time he's there, he's having people come up to him, whether it's people who cover the sport, whether it's team personnel, whether it's fans, whatever, no matter who stopped by to say hi to him, he gave them time, was a very, kind person, and a very generous person. And I'm just sitting there the whole time, like, he's right there. He's right there. That's Jerry effing West. That's Mr. effing Clutch. That's the logo. He's sitting right there. Just say hi. And it's like the only time that I've ever really been starstruck in my life was with Jerry West sitting there in front of me. And he winds up getting up and he walks away. And for the entirety of the next year, I'm kicking myself. Like, I've told this story before. The first time I met Michael Jordan, I saw what clubs he was playing with. He was playing with Pings. And I said, hey, I see you're playing with Pings. My dad plays with Pings. It was at the Tahoe Pro-Am tournament or whatever. It was a practice round, so we all could like talk to these people a little bit more. And he goes, yeah, I play with Pings. And I go, like, how do you like him? And he goes, I don't know. What do you think? Asking me how I felt about his swing, obviously. And I said, he faded way right over into the woods over there. Like, that's me. I'm a smart ass. I'm a jackass. Like, I'm an ass. And I see this guy, and this is the first time in my life that I'm ever like, oh my God, like, just say hi. Just say hi. He's right there. And I never say hi. And for the rest of that year, I'm just kicking myself because I just feel I'm never going to get that kind of an opportunity ever again. Come to find out through the stories that have been told all day today, actually, that type of a scenario plays out really often with Jerry West, where people who cover the team, he was always very generous with his time and always made time to just sit there and talk hoop. He loved it. So you fast forward a year from then, and I go there, and I'm there really early again, not credentialed because I was just a blog boy, and I had to get there really, really early, and I'm still there with my janky ass laptop, and I'm there wearing this golf polo shirt, pretending to be a journalist. And then here he comes again. He loved Summer League. It seemed like he seemed like he really, really seemed to love the vibe and the energy there as a whole bunch of really, really young players were pursuing their dream or kicking off their dream. And so he comes and he sits again, kind of like right in front of me. And this time I'm like, all right, you got to do it this time. I made myself like an unofficial promise, like, please just say hi to him. Just say hi. This time I do. This time I just kind of pat him on the shoulder and I say, hey, just so you know, I'm a giant fan, huge Lakers fan. I grew up on the Lakers. My dad told me all about you and Showtime and the 70s and everything. I'm just a huge fan. And, just wanted to say that, and I'll leave you alone. And he goes, oh, come on, let's watch a little basketball. So he's sitting there in front of me, and occasionally, like, he would watch, he was watching the guys that are in front of him. And again, I was like a row behind him. So he would just kind of like turn around and say, like, what do you think of this guy? And I'd say, like, I'm not a draft guy. So I'm just like, he looks pretty good. I don't know. I'm just sitting there shocked that for 5 minutes, this guy would care to sit down and talk basketball with me. And eventually he kind of he got pulled off in a different direction. And I say, dude, that was incredible. That was really, really nice. It was really nice meeting you, Mr. West. Enjoy the rest of your stay. And he goes, thank you. That was really fun. I really enjoyed talking basketball with you. And by the way, I'm really glad you didn't puss out like you did last year. And my jaw just goes, just shocked. And he walks away. And that's the only time I ever talked to Jerry West. And I'll never, ever forget it. It's the kind of thing I'm going to tell my grandchildren about. And you could name any number of other people who cover this sport, who love this sport and are in like league circles or whatever. Everybody has a Jerry West story. Some of them not great. Like I said, he was complicated. He could be an asshole. He demanded a lot out of the people that he worked with. But for me, the guy is unquestionably an icon. He's a Mount Rushmore Laker. He's a Mount Rushmore NBA player. And today, and I hope that this season, the NBA does something like they did for Bill Russell to honor Jerry West. Beyond having the logo on everybody's on their jersey, because that's already honoring the guy, but they need to find some way to honor Jerry West. And rest in peace to an absolute incredible presence and icon that the league is now worse for not having. Welcome, everybody, to my favorite day of the week. I am Anthony Irwin, joined on this fine Wednesday by Aaron Larsoul. The reason it is my favorite day of the week is because it is the day before I head out onto vacation. The first day of vacation, everybody goes really, really hard and all that stuff. But like, I really enjoyed the day before a vacation, the work day before a vacation, because I don't get a single thing done.
I mean, the assumption there is that you get things done on normal work days, which I'm not sure is true. So
that is a fair.
Does this mean? See, this sounds like this sounds like a family vacation you're getting ready to go on. Does this impact your summer league attendance? Is the only part that I care about.
No, God, no. I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll be there. I'm going to be there, and I am anticipating at least one funny, awkward exchange with Lakers people who are like, all right, this guy's here. We need this little asshole has been making all this noise from all the way out in Texas. We need to meet this little asshole. That's how I think it'll go at least once.
All right. Interesting.
But no, I can't wait for Summer League. It's like basically a month away. Like it is
exactly a month away. I will be heading there exactly a month from today, the 11th, July 11th.
Exciting. So, all right. So today on the show, we are going to be, that is Aaron on the other line, on the other side of this here cup and string that we call the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Lakers insider for Lakers Daily. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about the Lakers' kind of identity and their reputation, and whether all of this has been enough to maybe get them to look in the mirror and ask themselves some tough questions that maybe they've put off because of recent success. We got to obviously update you on the situation, and as best we can. Now, we are recording this on a Tuesday evening. This is going to run on a Wednesday afternoon. So unless we have any more pressing information, I'll go live for that and handle that solo. But for those of you who are watching right now, see, like, I have a glass of wine here next to me. It is 8:30 p.m. my time. If you guys are watching this and it is, I think it's probably going to run in the afternoon, early afternoon Pacific Coast time, I will not be drinking early afternoon. I'm just doing so right now.
Not that you're above such things.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit more above it now at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Look, I had my own come to Jesus moment with my alcohol.
Okay.
And with my weight and all of those things. You know, eventually I remember it. I bought myself some shirts from Costco, ironically Hurley shirts from Costco.
How long ago was this?
This would have been a couple years ago, I would say.
Okay.
So I bought myself some Hurley shirts, and I had noticed that the large were getting a little snug.
Okay.
So I bought some extra large ones.
Get in that XL,
and then the extra large ones started getting a little snug. And I was like, okay, it's time to make some major changes in my life. And ever since then, like,
do something.
I've been able to throw away all those extra large shirts. I've lost probably like 30 or 40 pounds since back in those days. Got my drinking.
Since you're like 5'3" or 5'4", that like 30-40 pounds is a huge number.
What do you mean?
Since you're like 5'3" or 5'4", 30 or 40 pounds is a lot. I mean, it's a lot anyway.
I'm not 5'3" or 5'4".
Okay, sorry.
But no, I am kind of proud. Like even like today, even recently, I've started losing even more weight because it is the time of year when we start doing the lawn and you start sweating all of that stuff out too. I've started eating salads for lunch. Jen found this like lemon vinaigrette that is excellent. That is like changed my life. So I guess that's all a great kind of prelude to today's topic. That whether or not this is a come to Jesus moment. I'm going to play this clip for you. This is from, by the time this time airs, a couple days ago, but this is Zach Lowe talking about and I played it yesterday with Trevor Lane, but this is Zach Lowe talking about Dan Hurley's decision to stay at UConn.
I wasn't surprised, and I'm less surprised now that Woj mentions an $8 million figure from UConn. 8 versus 12, you factor in taxes and cost of living, the thing shrinks, the gap shrinks. And look, like, he's got it made in the shade at UConn despite all the changes in college basketball. He's the king of college basketball. The Lakers' job is not that great of a job. They're a play-in team pretty much every year in a conference that is only getting better all around them, from the bottom and the top and the middle. It's a fight every year just to get out of the play-in. LeBron is almost 40. What's the vision for this team after LeBron leaves? Yeah, they have Anthony Davis. That's great. They have Austin Reeves, some other things. Like, you're not staring at a no-brainer championship window down the line. Every coach gets fired. I don't care how many years they have left on their contract, 2-3 years down the line, they get fired. And, you know, it's easy to say, someone's coming, a superstar's coming, and maybe that will be the case. We're not that far removed from the Lakers being a straight-up bad team for 5 or 6 years. I just don't think this is that great of a job. And it's not – I don't think the Lakers should be embarrassed that Dan Hurley turned them down. Yeah, they got public, and that's a little, I guess, embarrassing, but they'll get a good coach.
I don't think they should be embarrassed, but here's me shitting on them for a full minute straight on why it's a bad job, that the Lakers head coaching gig is a bad job. Aaron, I'm going to ask you straight up. Do you think the Lakers head coaching gig is a bad job? Or I know the term that you're going to be looking for, because a lot of the things that he was describing, you can apply to other head coaching jobs across the NBA. Do you think it's a worse gig than on average across the NBA?
That's silliness. That is. Look, Zach is. I will say this plainly. Zach is my favorite NBA writer. I think he's. Wow. I think he's excellent.
Unbelievable.
I think he's excellent. Ever since you've now dipped your toe into the official insider waters, the newsbreaker waters, which Zach, interestingly enough, has bowed out of.
Yeah,
in the last couple of years. I think Zach is. I think he's the best. Period.
Yeah.
But I disagree with him. Is it the best job in the NBA? That's up for discussion. But not an attractive job is silliness. You get to live in LA. You get to coach LeBron and AD. He would have been paid fairly, market value. I mean, these are all like discussions that can be had. What it would have taken to get him. Should he have been offered more? What is he worth? would he been the 6th highest paid guy? I think that's what it was. Put the Monty Williams outlier, just because that's the Pistons. We'll just put that away for now. But the 4 coaches that would have been paid more than him, other than Monty Williams, have won 12 titles combined, and these are all Hall of Fame coaches. I think it's silliness to say that the Lakers' job is not an attractive job. You have a high payroll. You have LeBron James. You have Anthony Davis. Whatever you think of them, 2 of the best 7 or 10 or 12 best guys in the league. Some other decent pieces around. This is not, I'm not going to talk about any other organization, but you can insert names here of organizations that don't ever win. Like the Lakers won a title a few years ago. So Zach is usually not.
And fired their coach.
Sure, but coaches get fired all the time. Zach is not particularly hyperbolic, but I think he was being hyperbolic here. I mean, look, like Bud won the Bucks won the title the year after the Lakers, and Bud got fired too. So this is not like a uniquely Lakers thing with turnover like this. There are very few coaches. I mean, at this point, it's Pop, Spo, and Steve Kerr are like the only coaches with any real tenure, I think. Maybe forget. I mean, even like, look, we all hate the Celtics, and we're trying to do a Celtics hate watch every couple days, and it's not really working. But
keep freaking winning.
Like Brad Stevens, who was pulled from college and was incredible. He was good. Not incredible is too much, but he was very good. He burnt out immediately. He couldn't do the job. Bringing in Ime, and that didn't work, right? And nobody put these.
Well, it worked. He was just doing extra work.
Okay, well put. I mean, they didn't win a title, right? Like it worked, kind of. They were really good, but they didn't win anything. So, yeah, I think this is a little hyperbolic from Zach, who, again, I respect quite a bit, and I think he's the best that there is. The Lakers' job is still very, very coveted, very popular. I mean, there's only 30 of these, and the Lakers brand, if you want to say that it's been tarnished recently, fine. But the Lakers brand is still the biggest brand in the NBA. You still get to live in Los Angeles. You still get paid very, very well. So I think Zach is being hyperbolic.
I don't know if I would go so far as to say it's an outright bad job, right? Because, like, to me, whether or not a job is a bad job, to me, starts with the ownership. Like, what is ownership's priorities? So, like, working for the Charlotte Hornets while Michael Jordan was the owner, that was a bad job because I never thought that his top priority was winning a championship. Playing or coaching for the Atlanta Hawks, historically, has been a bad job because you have a glass ceiling on the amount of resources that your roster is going to have put into it, because I don't think that their top priority has been winning a championship. Same for like the Washington Wizards and the Chicago Bulls and all of those organizations that, really kind of shoot for the middle and their top priority is profits over championships, right? So like
streetlights over spotlights.
What'd you say?
I said streetlights over spotlights.
Yeah, well, we need to find by the end of the show. We need to find a money version of that, right? Like,
what were the rest of those?
Streetlights over. Was it like we over me?
Yeah, some right? I think there was some about Hollywood. I don't remember, but yeah, that was a terrible campaign.
But so like I so if you're gonna call this a bad job, I think it starts with Jeanie Buss. Like you have to start the conversation with Jeanie Buss, and I know that she doesn't have the same amount of resources at her disposal as other owners, especially in her division. But I never, ever, ever get the sense in conversations that I have with people who are close to Jeanie that her top priority isn't winning a championship. Like
it is.
I think that she might have some blind spots that gets her into a little bit of trouble sometimes, but I always think, and I always get the sense that she means well and wants to win a championship. And that right there, like, I don't think a job in LA coaching the Lakers with all the, stuff that you mentioned, plus an owner who wants to win a championship and is willing to do what it takes to win a championship, I think, usually speaking, like that makes it hard to call it an outright bad job. That said, I think there are ways that the job can be improved, and there are ways that the reputation on that job can be improved, right? One thing that Eric Pincus actually just wrote about today, it was funny that went up basically while Trevor and I were having this conversation, is like the resources that the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers has at their disposal. Their scouting team is smaller than most in the NBA. Their analytics department is not as impressive as most in the NBA. Their film room and the resources that are dedicated to that film team are not particularly impressive compared to the rest of the NBA, and especially not at the top of the NBA. Like, the resources thing and the resources part of this is where I think that the Lakers could do a little bit of work to improve the reputation on that job. And the other part of it too is, like you said, coaches get fired and that's just how this goes. Dang it. One thing that just struck me in Woj's description of what the Lakers' goals were with Dan Hurley was that the Lakers wanted to turn this into a program, and that they wanted to build towards the future, and that they wanted to bring in Dan Hurley to be a big part of their future. And that's just, and they wanted to wrap their futures
by the way,
up.
That's true of any coach the Lakers bring in.
Well, but like, is it though?
Yes,
because
it may not work out that way.
But why specify that with this one? Or is that just Woj editorializing?
No. That, first of all, Woj did a ton of editorializing.
I agree. My mentions are in fucking shambles because of all of Woj's editorializing.
Woj did a ton of editorializing. But that's been Genie's stance for years. Like, it doesn't mean that it's going to work. Mm-hmm. But the intention is to have a coach for the long term, right? And it's interesting now, particularly because, this, whether that's a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, who knows? I will not put a limit on LeBron, but this is going to be a changing of the guard, transitioning of eras time for the Lakers, period. LeBron's not going to play forever.
They're nearing the end of a chapter.
Yeah, again, whether that's another year, another 2 years, another 3 years, another 7 years, I don't know. But we are coming to the close of it. And so the intention of this hire, very specifically, is to find someone that can give the Lakers a good chance to win now, but also is building. I mean, building a program is a very college way of saying it, but building something where you have continuity and the Lakers can be good and relevant, into the AD and whoever next era. And the intention with Frank, the intention with Darvin, it's all, Genie has said very specifically, I don't think it's a good thing changing coaches so often. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that those aren't the right moves to make those changes, but that is the intention, is to have whoever is hired here for a long time.
Looking back now, do you think firing Darvin, firing Frank at the times that they were fired was mistakes?
I have to be careful here. How about this? I am or was more on board with letting Darvin go than Frank.
I think that's the right politically correct answer. I apologize for putting you on the spot. And by the way, you should probably have a larger cup of unnamed cognac next year.
I'm sipping it slowly.
But all right, so you mentioned LeBron James, and this is something that, like, I've started to get aggregated on and stuff like that. And I would like to kind of try to set that record straight. You don't think that this has impacted LeBron's chances of returning, do you?
No, I do not.
I mean, neither, mostly But I also can't help but feel like if I were LeBron, I would certainly be looking at the state of things and being like, do I want to gamble on Joel Embiid's needs? Joel Embiid's knees. Do I want to see what Tyrese Maxey can turn into?
I mean, look, that's true of, right? Like this is not LeBron specific and it's not Lakers specific, right? Paul George is seemingly going to be a free agent here, right? Like this is a free agency period, and the NBA in general is going this way. There are not a lot of impact free agents around.
Yeah.
So the NBA in general is going that way, but this is a thing for everybody now that has to make these decisions, right? It's like, okay, like I could leave, but to go where? I mean, look, Orlando was good this past season and young, and they have a bunch of cap space. OKC was good and they have cap space. Philadelphia was good, really good until Embiid got hurt and they have cap space. But I don't know, do any of those seem like great options for you? If like the question always becomes,
well, for LeBron,
where,
I don't see him going to Orlando.
Yeah.
I don't see him going to OKC.
But my point is the same thing is true. It's not like a LeBron specific thing. Same, whoever the best free agents on the market or potential free agents on the market, whether that's Paul George or Clay or even D'Lo or whoever, like, okay, for where?
Yeah. Well, D'Lo, like all of the coaching stuff has been like the central focus on what I've been doing lately and all that stuff. So like I haven't been asking around too much on D'Lo, but the spectrum on responses that you get about D'Lo is just insane. It is legitimately incredible. You'll have people who say like he has to opt in, not he's going to, not he maybe should. No. Like one end of the spectrum is he has to opt in. He won't have a market if he opts out. And then the other spectrum or the other end of the spectrum is if he opts out, he could get a big old bag from Orlando, who needs offense from their point guard position. Although I think a lot of like guards, especially who can shoot, their agents are going to use Orlando as a leverage play. But anyway, we should get back to the central issue here, the central kind of crux of this episode, on whether this kind of forces the Lakers to ask some tough questions of themselves. Like, Rob Pelinka has now overseen 2 very chaotic head coaching searches. Like at one point, do questions start getting asked about the job that he is doing, in various aspects of the gig?
So there's 2 parts to this. One is, what do you think of the reported process in all of this?
Mm-hmm. It's all over the place.
And what do you think of the outcome? So I think the only thing that is harmful to the Lakers here, and you could say it was, and by the way, I don't know the answer to this. I probably couldn't tell you if I did, but I honestly don't know the answer to this. How much of it was Lakers leaking, which I kind of doubt, and how much of it was Woj editorializing. The only part of this that got sideways for the Lakers is Woj putting a bunch on it, like the Lakers are preparing to make this huge offer, and then naming an offer and then him saying no. Right? If this had just been the Lakers like have interest in Dan Hurley, and nobody knew about it, they're bringing him in, everybody would go, oh shit, this okay. I like this. That's a good name. We didn't hear, but we didn't know about that. And so it's hard for me to understand why people say, okay, the Lakers missed out on Dan Hurley, fine. But how that like illegitimizes the process, right? Just because you heard a number doesn't mean the Lakers process has gone from, oh shit, Dan Hurley, good, to didn't get Dan Hurley bad. So
I mean, I can answer that.
I mean, this is what it is with the Lakers and with social media. And look, Frank was probably not the first, the the first choice last time. And then the counter to that is Frank won a title. So I think it's like part of it is what do you think of the process? And part of it is who do you end up with and how good does that person end up being? So I think it is going to be interesting, but no, I don't think there's some like you know, to use the phrasing on the topic bar you have, I don't think this has some huge come to Jesus moment. I think the Lakers, as the Lakers said from the beginning, have cast a very wide net and are trying to have a very broad search. And if that includes names that we like, that are names that nobody else knew, and it doesn't end up working, those things happen. The problem is some numbers got leaked. And Woj, for whatever reason, I'm not going to accuse him of anything. He does have a very interesting relationship with the Hurley family, and he has a way of shaping news and presenting it, you know, one side of the story more than another side of the story. I'm not saying anything nefarious has happened here, but
people are.
Woj presented it in the way he presented it, and that was not great for the Lakers.
All right, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit on like why the Hurley stuff. I don't know if I would go so far as to say it delegitimizes the process, but what it did do is potentially, you know, it impacted it. It would seem, at least to a certain extent, the relationship that they had with their previous first target.
Well, possibly, but yeah, okay. So let me paint the scenario. Sorry to interrupt you on your show. But here, let me be like clear about what I mean here. So I'm going to give like a hypothetical, right? The Lakers have all of these people that are interested in. All these names have been reported: Nori, JJ, Borrego, Sam Cassell, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At whatever it was last Wednesday or Thursday, if Woj says, or whoever, Shams, Chris Haynes, whoever, Anthony Irwin, insider Anthony Irwin, says the Lakers also have interest in Dan Hurley, great coach from UConn, back-to-back titles, and the Lakers plan on having him in for an interview. And that's the end of it. Then everybody goes, all right, Lakers, good job. Then these other details get out, which makes it seem like, whether it's true or not, makes it seem like the Lakers are pining after this dude, and contract numbers get leaked, some from you, interesting where they came from, right? But there's like a number floating around that nobody knows where it comes from. And then it feels like the Lakers cheaped out because they didn't meet a number that was never a real number to begin with. So if none of the numbers get leaked and it's not Woj framing it as the Lakers are trying to do this, hey, swing and a miss, then it just feels like, yeah, this is really good process. Hey, the Lakers have uncovered a great coach that nobody thought was an option to interview.
Yeah, I mean, like, the numbers part of it, I mean, like, I'll tell you, I can't tell you specifically where it came from.
I mean, I know where it came from, but that's not.
But like, you know, essentially,
I know where that number came from.
Yeah, like the number, I think pretty clearly came from Hurley's camp. I double checked on that number and was told that, yeah, if it takes going that high, I think they'll go that high. And then that's why I was kind of surprised when the actual offer came out, and it was not that high. And I know people were saying that like average, you know,
the average
year or whatever, like,
yes, it's very similar. Yes.
It's like, it's roughly similar, but to me, like he said, like he basically gave the answers to the quiz. Like he gave the answers to the pop quiz, and
yeah, but why does that mean the Lakers have to meet that though?
Because do you want your guy or not?
No, but that's the thing. We don't know the answer to that. It was framed a certain way by one side of this. We don't know the Lakers' actual feelings on this. Did the Lakers have interest in Dan Hurley as their coach? Yes, clearly. But was he some guy that has to be obtained? We don't know the answer to that.
Well, but like I would say the fallout would indicate that yes, kind of, sort of.
The fallout from what? The fallout from
not
Lakers
getting
fans?
him. Like the
fallout from Lakers fans?
No, the fallout, the fallout that I've heard internally, that like it's been
There was
a
definite
little chaotic. That it was like,
was-
oh shit. All right, well,
yeah, but okay, but here's this is my point in all of this is that the reason it is chaotic, if it is chaotic, and the reason you have to do some damage control with other candidates is because of numbers that got out. And those are not from the Lakers. We have not heard the Lakers side of this yet. I do believe the Lakers had interest in Dan Hurley. Obviously, I do believe an offer was made. So I do believe the Lakers had interest in Dan Hurley becoming the Lakers coach. That doesn't mean he was the only guy. We have to have this guy specifically, and we'll do whatever it takes. Those are two different things, and we don't know the answer to that. If the Lakers identified him and said, we have to have this guy, then yeah, I don't think the offer was strong enough. But in a vacuum, the Lakers offer is a very strong offer for him. 6 years, 70 million
for a
puts
rookie
you up
coach. No,
there.
I agree. I agree. Well, but that's how often though. How often have we been saying that about Rob Pelinka decisions? In a vacuum, this was a good signing. In a vacuum, this was a good signing. In a vacuum, this was a good signing. And then you walk away with 3 combo guards and you're like, oh shit, that didn't happen in a vacuum. You know, like the context matters. The circumstance
yes, it does.
matters.
Yes, it does. What what I'm saying though is we don't know the Lakers context for this. We heard presumably, obviously I said, I'm not like throwing dirt on Woj. I'm not saying there was anything nefarious, but Woj obviously has a good relationship with that family. And so we heard a lot of the UConn and Dan Hurley side of this from Woj. We didn't hear a lot of the Lakers side from this. And I personally don't know. Like, again, I will say this. If the Lakers had identified Dan Hurley and said, this is the guy, we have to have him, then yeah, you got to go above and beyond and give a can't refuse type offer. If that was the case, I agree with you. My point is we don't know if that was the case. If he was, yeah, we like him as a candidate. Yeah, we'd love him to be our coach. But was he identified as the only option?
Well, I mean, like he can't literally be the only option.
No, but like
there are actual.
No, there's going to be like, okay, right, right. If you and your wife and break up, like you could date another woman, right? Mm-hmm. But like your wife is your only option, right? Like literally, there are right. Literally, there are other
told options. A single lie there. Right. I will not pull.
You ain't never lie. My point is, like, literally, there would be other options for you to date, but like practically no. Like, right? So, and we don't know that as it relates to the Lakers trying to be married to Dan Hurley and not get divorced because Anthony could never find another Jen ever in life.
No, it's not happening. Like even the thought of it, I just had an existential crisis. But no, I would say though that like that's where, you know, that fallout that I talk about is, I think, noteworthy in that, like, you know, okay, they don't get Hurley, and now it's like I've heard it's basically a full reset. You got to bring back a whole list of candidates and start again. You know, start the process almost anew. This time without Dan Hurley in it. This time potentially without JJ Redick in it. And now you have to do all of that in the 2 weeks between now and the NBA draft. And you know,
that's the timeline. Look, that I will not, like. I'm not going to push back on that. The timeline is, look, you want to have somebody in place at ASAP. I'm not going to argue with, but then that's also like, you're trying to balance that with, like, in the long term, you got to get the best guy you can get. And if that takes another round of interviews, if that takes another week or two of waiting, like, it's not great. I mean, because you do want to have somebody in place, draft and
that's my point.
Player option stuff and summer league and, you know, all of that. Free agency, yes.
But that's my point, though, in that, like, if you don't get Hurley, it puts you in this really, really, really tough situation. Like, all right.
but only because numbers got leaked. Only because numbers got leaked.
No, it's not only because of numbers, it's because of timing. It's because of other candidates and the impact that Hurley had on potential other candidates.
That's what I'm saying. That part was the numbers. If it was just that, hey, Hurley's coming in for an interview, that doesn't. All those things that you're saying don't apply. It's because
an offer. It's not like it's the offer. It's the timing. It's the fact that everybody was sitting there waiting on Monday morning to see what he was going to say as he was walking into UConn practice. Like if like, to your point, if all of this happens 3 weeks ago, like if all of this takes place 3 weeks ago, closer to when the Lakers fired Darvin Ham, basically you fire Darvin Ham, you go through 2 weeks of searching, and you identify Dan Hurley as a candidate, you make him an offer. Even then, like if it was the same offer and the numbers came out then, I think I'd be like, they swung, they missed, but then now they at least have plenty of time to figure out their next move here. But given the desperation of the moment and given where they find themselves right now, I do think Dan Hurley has to be kind of seen as like the Jen in this situation. Like I kind of feel like he does.
I have had the pleasure of meeting your lovely wife on multiple occasions. Jen
She's much better looking than Dan Hurley.
She has a full head of hair. In fact,
she does. Yeah, she has a set of assets that I'm more intrigued by than.
She's also a lot nicer than he is.
I think that's definitely true. By the way, I think this also needs to be said. There is a very realistic world here where Dan Hurley doesn't work out, and he's an outright disaster if the Lakers do give him that Godfather offer and it doesn't work out. Like, there was risk involved in all of this too.
Yes, there's risk involved. There was a lot to like about Dan Hurley. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Lakers had no interest in Dan Hurley.
Oh, no, for sure. No,
there's a lot to like about it, but yes, there are some questions. I mean, look,
for the sake of fairness,
there's pros and cons for all of the candidates.
Yeah.
I don't see. Be careful. I don't see Phil Jackson sitting out there just waiting for. Well, I guess Phil is technically and literally sitting out there, but I know there's not Phil Jackson sitting out there waiting. A Phil Jackson sitting out there.
Yeah, I don't think that would go very well if the Lakers hired Phil Jackson. It would be hilarious, but I don't think it would go very well. But yeah, I think that. Like, I don't know. I find myself a little disappointed in the possibility that this doesn't force some tougher conversations internally on, like, are we because they did look like Ty Lue is on the record saying that he got a low ball offer from the Lakers back when they made him that offer. And given the circumstances, I would argue this is at least low ball adjacent. I don't know if I would go so far as to say that it's like a full on low ball.
I'm not. No, we can't do that.
I think low ball adjacent. I'm being really fair with low ball adjacent. There's a lot of people who are just outright calling it a low ball offer.
Yeah, and they're wrong. No, they're wrong. They are wrong.
Okay,
they are wrong.
And I'm saying it's low ball. It's close to a low ball offer.
It's not
given the context of the situation.
It's not close to a low. It's not close to a low ball offer. They offered somebody who has never coached in the NBA. They offered him to be the 6th highest paid coach in the league. That is not a low ball offer.
Got to cross the Monty Williams barrier. Detroit ruined it for everybody.
Well, yeah, he didn't ruin it for coaches.
That's fair. That is very fair. So what happens next? What comes next? Like the Lakers, the chyron that I saw on ESPN that made me drop my glass of wine was that they're hoping to have a coach in place by the draft. You need this done, I think, in the next week or so, I would say. Maybe they're hoping for, like, is this the rare case where the Lakers are hoping for a Boston Celtics sweep so that they could maybe pick the conversation back up with JJ Redick now with the finals out of the way? Like, where does everybody go here? Because the reality is, if this had happened earlier, and if it was a version of events that took place earlier that was super embarrassing, and I think if there was more time, I would honestly expect tough conversations to take place with Rob. It's like, how did we not get the top guy again? How does this happen again? I think it's too late in the offseason for that. I think, I think he kind of benefits from some of the timing here and the relationships and stuff like that. But
what happens now? What happens now?
Yeah,
you continue your search and try to go find the best coach you can. Nothing changes. And I personally I do think I'm not gonna gaslight you here and say that the timing of it doesn't matter. Of course, ideally, you would like to have a coach in place by now. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, right? The earlier, the better. And you certainly would like, all things being equal, you would like to have a coach to be able to participate in draft stuff, to be able to participate in, sharing their vision with free agents, potential free agents, guys on your own roster who have player options, of course. You would like to have them be a part of the free agency presentations. You would like to have them be a part of Summer League, even if it's just kind of putting their plan in place so that you can have continuity with the South Bay Lakers. Yeah, you're not wrong. It would be better if the Lakers had a head coach right now. You're not wrong. But we are where we are. So at this point, I think the best thing to do and the best path forward is find the best coach you can. And if you can find the best coach in a week, that's the best outcome. But I would rather select someone who I think is better 3 weeks from now than select somebody I don't think is as good, but I want them in place immediately.
Do you hear that in the background? Do you hear that?
No, I don't.
I think it's getting louder. It's getting a little louder. There it is. Hold on.
Run it back! Run it back! Run it back! Run it back!
Frank Vogel, the return? Huh? Are you moved? I didn't know you could wring out glass. That is crazy. I've never seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, I have taken up too much of your time as per usual. As per usual, greatly appreciate you hopping on and being flexible during a really, really difficult and obviously hectic time of the year.
No, not hectic at all.
I'm talking obviously about the airing of The Acolyte that
which I have to.
Have you seen the first episode?
I saw the first two. Yeah. As you said, we're recording this on Tuesday, so you pulled me away from watching episode 3, which I've heard is quite controversial and not in a good way. So yeah, I've seen the first 2 episodes. I was, shall we say, underwhelmed, but I'm going to give it this one and maybe 4 before I just give up entirely.
It's such a weird choice. Like the choice, like it's propped up as this like who done it, and then they tell you who done it.
It's so
it doesn't make any sense to me.
So
like you had the show right there. You had the version of the show that made a whole bunch of sense right there.
The writing is so, and I say this a lot. So I've started watching Dexter, and I just finished season 2 earlier this afternoon.
Yeah,
and the person that suggested I watch it said, whenever you suggest a show to someone, you like follow along on the journey with them because you want them to be really into it, right? And so they said, are you into it? And I said, not really. At the beginning, I'm more into it now. And I said, job number 1 for any show is make me care about the characters. And that should have been job number 1 for The Acolyte. And I don't care about any of the characters. So like, somebody dies, somebody wins over here, somebody loses over here. I don't give a shit. I don't care about any of you.
You know what the problem with Star Wars right now? Like the foundational problem with Star Wars is?
Disney?
The Jedi are a bunch of losers. I hate the Jedi. I find myself rooting against the Jedi all the time.
Have you watched any of The Acolyte yet?
I have. I watched the first 2 episodes.
I was gonna say, if that's how you feel, then you probably are not gonna enjoy the first 2 episodes.
No, because like you think, all right. Let me paint a picture to you, Aaron.
Please.
I'm just gonna like line up some boxes and tell you whether or not this thing should be cool. Okay. They're a bunch of like basically they're like magicians. They have like super strength and super agility
They're
powers.
superheroes, yeah.
They wield light swords. They have like better than cat-like reflexes. They are some of the smartest people in all of the universes in this thing. Like if I just give you those 5 boxes there, you'd be like, "Oh shit, that seems pretty cool."
Seems cool. Yeah, it seems cool.
Seems really cool. Except like this like religious, like dogmatic, like you know, and like the burden that they carry to be as boring as they possibly can always. Like I really think it's why Star Wars can't get anything off of the ground, because in the original trilogy, the Jedi look cool as shit, man. Like the concept of being a Jedi seemed like really cool. And then like in the prequels, we get told actually no, they kind of suck. They are responsible for creating Darth Vader.
Their reliance on being so stoic and all of that.
Like it's just like they're so self-serious.
Here's the other problem is that it was kind of the Force and the Jedi wielding the Force in the original trilogy was kind of mysterious.
Yeah.
Right. You could, weak-minded people, you could have some influence over them. People that had trained, you could have some limited control over your physical environment. Yeah. And now it's just like, whatever you want, whatever the story needs. That's what the Force can do.
Yeah, you can actually survive getting stabbed by a lightsaber now.
Yeah, but you can't survive getting hit with a small throwing knife.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't
God, it's bad. I hate it. They keep getting me too. Here's Disney Plus. Yay. Again and again.
No, they know how to make a trailer.
Next show.
That is
for
sure.
Come on. I love it. I need it. Let me just see. Maybe this time. I'm like the abused lover. I'm like, no, he's changed. I want just one more time. Let me see.
The character that I have found myself most drawn to now, like having seen all of it, is actually Luke. Because he looks back on it and he's the one who tells you, like, no, the Jedi sucked.
Yeah, we suck.
The Jedi, they blew it, man.
Him into a bitch. They turned him into a bitch.
We had a 3-1 lead and we blew it. Like, we were so cool in the 80s and we blew it. Like,
they made him. No, they. You know what? I'm gonna go watch the Acolyte. You know what? Next time I'm on, we're gonna do another Acolyte. We'll do an Acolyte hour. One day
the Jedi Golden State Warriors. Like they had a 3-1 lead and they blew it.
Thank you for having me on for the last time. It's been really great.
All right, I think that'll do it. For this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. I am Anthony Irwin. That was Aaron Larsoul. He peaced out. Until the next time you guys hear from us, which I think we're going to be kicking off that player review series while I am off on vacation this weekend. If anything crazy happens, I will. I have my laptop and I'll have my mic with me. So I will hop on here and do that. But until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you tomorrow.